Good evening. This is All India Radio. I am Valsa Williams and with me is Abhineet Shukla with the evening news. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi participates in G20 Extraordinary Summit on Afghanistan, stresses on preventing Afghan territory from becoming source of radicalization and terrorism. Prime Minister calls for urgent and unhindered humanitarian assistance to Afghan citizens and an inclusive administration. Selective interpretation of human rights damaging for democracy, says Prime Minister at NHRC Foundation Day program. Power Ministry asks states to utilize unallocated power from central plants only to meet requirement of their own consumers. Country inching towards 100 crore COVID vaccination target. National recovery rate stands at 98.04%. Civil Aviation Ministry allows domestic flights to operate at full capacity from 18th October. Prime Minister to launch PM Gati Shakti National Master Plan for Multimodal Connectivity tomorrow. Sensex jumps 149 points to close above 60,200 level. Nifty soars to 17,992. And in IPL cricket, Kolkata Knight Riders to face Delhi Capitals in second qualifier at Sharjah tomorrow. As India is on the verge of vaccinating 100 crore people against COVID-19, All India Radio salutes all the doctors, nurses and others who made this possible. At the same time, we caution our listeners that the battle against COVID is not yet over. We appeal to our listeners to get fully vaccinated at the earliest and also help others get vaccinated. During the festival season, please follow these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact national helpline numbers 011-2397-8046 and 1075. And now the news in detail. Prime Minister Narendra Modi today virtually participated in the G20 Extraordinary Summit on Afghanistan. In his remarks, Mr. Modi welcomed the initiative of the Italian G20 presidency in convening the meeting to take stock of the current situation in Afghanistan. He emphasized the centuries-old people-to-people ties between India and Afghanistan. Mr. Modi mentioned that over the last 2 decades, India has contributed to promoting socio-economic development and capacity building of youth and women in Afghanistan. He recalled that over 500 development projects have been implemented by India in Afghanistan. The Prime Minister noted that the Afghan people have a great feeling of friendship for India. He conveyed that every Indian feels the pain of the Afghan people facing hunger and malnutrition. Mr. Modi emphasized the need for the international community to ensure that Afghanistan has immediate and unhindered access to humanitarian assistance. The Prime Minister also underlined the need to ensure that Afghan territory does not become a source of radicalization and terrorism regionally or globally. He emphasized on the need to enhance our joint fight against the nexus of radicalization, terrorism and the smuggling of drugs and arms in the region. In order to preserve the socio-economic gains of the last 20 years and to restrict the spread of radical ideology, the Prime Minister called for an inclusive administration in Afghanistan, which includes women and minorities. Mr. Modi conveyed support for the important role of the United Nations in Afghanistan and called for renewed support of the G20 for the message contained in UN Security Council Resolution 2593 on Afghanistan. The Prime Minister called on the international community to forge a unified international response, without which it would be difficult to bring about the desired change in the situation in Afghanistan.
Prime Minister has said, India is moving forward with the basic principle of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas and Sabka Prayas to ensure human rights for all. He said the government is going ahead with the goal of ensuring that everyone gets the benefits of welfare schemes. Mr. Modi was virtually addressing the 28th National Human Rights Commission NHRC Foundation Day program in New Delhi today.
आज देश सबका साथ, सबका विकास, सबका विश्वास और सबका प्रयास के मूल मंत्र पर चल रहा है। ये एक तरह से मानव अधिकार को सुनिश्चित करने की ही मूल भावना है। अगर सरकार कोई योजना शुरू करे और उसका लाभ कुछ को मिले, कुछ को ना मिले, तो अधिकार का विषय खड़ा होगा ही। और इसलिए हम हर योजना का लाभ सभी तक पहुंचे, इस लक्ष्य को लेकर चल रहे हैं। जब भेदभाव नहीं होता, जब पक्षपात नहीं होता, पारदर्शिता के साथ काम होता है, तो सामान्य मानवी के अधिकार भी सुनिश्चित होते हैं।
The Prime Minister said that the country has also tried to remove the injustice happening at different levels in different sections. Mr. Modi said his government has given new rights to Muslim women by enacting a law against triple talaq. Mr. Modi said India has ensured 26 weeks of paid maternity leave for career women, a feat that even many developed nations could not achieve.
भारत की नारी शक्ति के सामने आजादी के इतने दशकों बाद भी अनेक रुकावटें बनी हुई थी। बहुत से सेक्टर्स में उनकी एंट्री पर पाबंदी थी। महिलाओं के साथ इनजस्टिस हो रहा था। आज महिलाओं के लिए काम के अनेक सेक्टर्स को खोला गया है। वो 24 घंटे सुरक्षा के साथ काम कर सके, इसे सुनिश्चित किया जा रहा है। दुनिया के बड़े बड़े देश ऐसा नहीं कर पा रहे हैं, लेकिन भारत आज करियर वुमेन को 26 हफ्ते की पेड मैटरनिटी लीव दे रहा है।
The Prime Minister also cautioned against the selective interpretation of human rights and its use to diminish the image of the country. He said of late, some people have started interpreting human rights from their own angle as per their selfish interests. Mr. Narendra Modi said the biggest infringement of human rights takes place when they are seen from the prism of politics and political profit and loss. The Prime Minister said this selective behavior is equally damaging for democracy as well.
The Union Home Ministry today began tripartite talks with the Gorkha representatives from the Darjeeling Hills, Terai and Dwars region and the government of West Bengal. The talks, aimed at resolving the issues related to the Gorkhas, were chaired by Home Minister Amit Shah. The Gorkha delegation was led by Darjeeling MP Raju Bisht and highlighted various issues concerning the Gorkhas and the region. Speaking on the occasion, Mr. Shah said the central government under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi is constantly making efforts to resolve issues related to the Gorkhas and of the region. He listened to all the parties concerned and has decided to call for the second round of talks in the presence of the senior officials of the government of West Bengal in November this year. The centre has asked states to utilize unallocated power of the central generating stations only to meet the power requirement of their own consumers. It has been brought to the notice of the Power Ministry that some states are not supplying power to their consumers and imposing load shedding. At the same time, they are also selling power in the power exchange at high price. The Ministry of Power in a statement said as per the guidelines for allocation of power, 15% power from the central generating stations are kept under unallocated power, which is allocated by the central government to the needy states to meet the requirement of power of the consumers. It said the responsibility to supply power to the consumers is of the distribution companies and they should first serve their consumers who have the right to receive 24/7 power. Thus, the distribution companies should not sell the power in the power exchange and starve their own consumers. The ministry added that the states have been requested to use the unallocated power for supplying electricity to the consumers of the state in case of surplus power. The states have been requested to intimate to the Government of India so that this power can be reallocated to other needy states. It said in case of any state is found that they are not serving their consumers or selling power in the power exchanges at higher rate, the unallocated power of such state shall be withdrawn and allocated to other needy states.
You are listening to the evening news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Prime Minister Narendra Modi participates in G20 Extraordinary Summit on Afghanistan, stresses on preventing Afghan territory from becoming source of radicalization and terrorism. Prime Minister calls for urgent and unhindered humanitarian assistance to Afghan citizens and an inclusive administration. Selective interpretation of human rights damaging for democracy, says Prime Minister at NHRC Foundation Day program. Power Ministry asks states to utilize unallocated power from central plants only to meet requirement of their own consumers. Country inching towards 100 crore COVID vaccination target, national recovery rate stands at 98.04%. Civil Aviation Ministry allows domestic flights to operate at full capacity from 18th of October. Prime Minister to launch PM Gati Shakti, National Master Plan for Multimodal Connectivity tomorrow. Sensex jumps 149 points to close above 60,200 level. Nifty soars to 17,992. And in IPL cricket, Kolkata Knight Riders to face Delhi Capitals in second qualifier at Sharjah tomorrow. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle @AIR News Alerts.
चलो मिलकर एक शुरुआत करें, चलो एक फैसला आज करें, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे, चलो एक इरादा करते हैं, चलो कुछ वादा करते हैं, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे.
Welcome back to the evening news. The country is inching closer towards achievement of 100 crore COVID vaccination target. India's COVID-19 vaccination coverage has crossed 96 crore 38 lakh mark. The Union Health Ministry said more than 46 lakh 23,000 doses were administered today. All India Radio News also spoke to a person from Hyderabad who got fully vaccinated recently.
My name is Ernest. I'm from Hyderabad. I'm 60 plus and I teach in the Osmania University. I took my first dose of vaccine in the month of June and I completed my second dose very recently, that is on the 10th of September. I would have taken it earlier, but I went through the valley of COVID. I had viral fever with symptoms of lack of smell and taste. So, with the prescribed medication and protocols, I was able to get over it, and with a gap of 1.5 months, I went for my first dose of vaccination. I must say that above everything else, the vaccination has bolstered my image, my self-confidence, and I'm back at work in full throttle.
In Manipur, a villager from a remote district bordering Myanmar has taken a full dose of COVID-19 vaccine. Talking to AIR News, she lauded the central government for launching the world's largest vaccination drive in the country.
I am LS Ungchuyon from Ukhrul in Manipur. I am a school teacher by profession and I have already taken 2 doses of COVID-19 vaccine Covishield. It is very heartwarming to see Samaritan gesture of the government in providing COVID-19 vaccine free of cost even at this remote Indo-Myanmar border town of Ukhrul. The effort of Indian government led by our Prime Minister Narendra Modi to save humanity from terrible pandemic is praiseworthy. India is reaching 100 crore vaccination. This is laudable.
Meanwhile, India reported over 14,000 new cases during the last 24 hours, which is the lowest in 224 days. The Health Ministry said the recovery rate is currently at 98.04%, the highest since March last year. Over 26,000 people recovered in the last 24 hours, and total recoveries touched 3,33,20,057. The Civil Aviation Ministry has decided to restore the scheduled domestic air operations from the 18th of this month without any capacity restriction. The decision was taken after the review of the current status of scheduled domestic operators and passengers' demand for air travel. The ministry said the airlines and airport operators shall, however, ensure that the guidelines to contain the spread of COVID-19 are strictly adhered to and COVID-appropriate behavior is strictly enforced by them during their travel.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will launch National Master Plan for providing multimodal connectivity, Pradhan Mantri Gati Shakti, tomorrow at 11 a.m. at Pragati Maidan in New Delhi. PM Gati Shakti will address the past issues through institutionalizing holistic planning for stakeholders for major infrastructure projects. The Prime Minister had announced about the Gati Shakti during his address on Independence Day earlier this year.
भारत आने वाले कुछ ही समय में प्रधानमंत्री गति शक्ति नेशनल मास्टर प्लान उसको देश के सामने करोड़ों देशवासियों को सपना करने वाली एक बहुत बड़ी योजना लेकर के हम आपके सामने आने वाले हैं, उसको लॉन्च करने वाले हैं। 100 लाख करोड़ से भी अधिक की योजना लाखों नौजवानों के लिए रोजगार के नए अवसर लेकर के आने वाली गति शक्ति हमारे देश के लिए एक ऐसा नेशनल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर मास्टर प्लान होगा जो होलिस्टिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर की नींव रखेगा, हमारी इकोनॉमी को एक इंटीग्रेटेड और होलिस्टिक पाथवे देगा.
Our correspondent has filed this report.
PM Gati Shakti is the result of Prime Minister's constant endeavour to build next-generation infrastructure which improves ease of living as well as ease of doing business. It will provide the public and business community information regarding the upcoming connectivity projects, other business hubs, industrial areas and surrounding environment. This will enable the investors to plan their businesses at suitable locations, leading to enhanced synergies. It will also create multiple employment opportunities and give a boost to the economy. PM Gati Shakti will improve the global competitiveness of local products by cutting down the logistics costs and improving the supply chains. It will also ensure proper linkages for local industry and consumers. With Dipendra Anand Kumar, AIR News, Delhi.
The Prime Minister will also inaugurate the new exhibition complex at Pragati Maidan during the event. In Jammu and Kashmir, 5 terrorists were neutralized by security forces in 2 separate encounters in Shopia district today. Meanwhile, Delhi police has arrested a terrorist from Lakshminagar area of the national capital and foiled a major terror plan in the city. Briefing reporters in New Delhi today, Deputy Commissioner of Police in Special Cell Pramod Kushwaha said the terrorist is a Pakistani national who was staying on a fake identity on forged documents.
पाकिस्तानी नेशनल पिछले 1 डिकेड से ऊपर से इंडिया में रह रहा था और इंडियन आइडेंटिटी एक्वायर की हुई थी। इसके इंस्टेंस पे AK-47 मैगजीन्स, पिस्टल्स 2 और कार्ट्रिजेस और 1 ग्रेनेड रिकवर किया गया है। इससे इनिशियल जो पूछताछ है उससे पता चला है कि सबवर्सिव एक्टिविटीज के लिए स्लीपर सेल की तरह काम कर रहा था। फिलहाल में जो उसको टास्किंग की गई थी वो एक कोई टेरर एक्टिविटी इसको कैरी आउट करनी थी। जगह नहीं बताई गई थी, बट ये हथियार वगैरह जो हैं ये उसी टेररिस्ट एक्टिविटी को ऑर्केस्ट्रेट करने के लिए पहुंचवाए गए थे। इसकी जो बाकी इन्वॉल्वमेंट है उनको हम वेरीफाई कर रहे हैं।
Kerala is witnessing widespread damage as heavy rains continue to lash across the state. The Met Department has predicted heavy rain till Friday. We have a report.
4 deaths were reported in various rain-related incidents in the state today. Northern districts of Kerala is the worst hit. Many low-lying areas are flooded. Rail and road traffic and electricity supply is disrupted in many areas. Orange alert have been declared in 9 districts. 6 disaster response teams have been deployed across the state. 27 relief camps have been opened. Fishing is banned in Kerala and Lakshadweep coast until day after tomorrow. State Revenue Minister K. Rajan convened a high-level meeting and took stock of the situation. Mayusha for AR News from Thiruvananthapuram.
At the stock markets, key indices posted fresh record closing highs today, but the rupee fell for the 3rd straight day against the dollar. A report from the Business World.
At the stock markets, rising for the 4th straight day, Sensex at the Bombay Stock Exchange gained 149 points to end at a fresh record high of 60,284. Nifty at the National Stock Exchange rose 46 points to a new all-time high of 17,992. At the foreign exchange market, the rupee shed 13 paise to 75 rupees and 49 paise against the US dollar. Gold rose 129 rupees to 46,286 rupees per 10 grams at the Delhi bullion market. Arjun Chaudhary for AIR News.
Today is World Arthritis Day. The objective of the day is to create awareness among the people about rheumatic disorders as well as to sensitize government and policymakers about the disease. This year the theme of the day is Don't Delay, Connect Today. Talking to AIR News, head of the Department of Rheumatology at AIIMS, Dr. Uma Kumar said, arthritis disease can affect any age group of people, including children.
Arthritis is just one of the manifestations of rheumatological disorders, which are close to 200 in numbers. Therefore, other common manifestations are having fever, oral ulcers, skin rashes, photosensitivity, muscle weakness, dryness of eyes and mouth, and many more. It is true that arthritis can occur at any age, any gender, and any class of the society. But majority of inflammatory arthritis are treatable with available drugs. So don't ignore cry of your joints. Pay attention, and right treatment at right time saves the joint.
As our nation celebrates the 75th year of independence, a series of events is being organized by the government as a part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Let's listen to our special program Azadi Ka Safar, highlighting the importance of the day during the freedom struggle.
Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav.
Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. Birth of a nation. India's glorious freedom struggle is one of the greatest struggles the modern world has ever witnessed. AIR News brings you a glimpse of the struggle every day.
In today's episode, we are paying our tributes to freedom fighter, author, thinker and political leader Ram Manohar Lohia, who left us on 12th October in 1967. Lohia was born on 23rd of March 1910 at Akbarpur in the then Faizabad district of Uttar Pradesh.
His father was a great follower of Mahatma Gandhi, and at an early age itself, Ram Manohar leaned towards Gandhian philosophy and turned a satyagrahi at the age of 10. During school days, Lohia launched a campaign against textbooks which described Shivaji as a bandit king, and later joined protest against Simon Commission.
After completing graduation from Calcutta University, Lohia went to Europe for further studies. While in Europe, Lohia attended the League of Nations Assembly in Geneva. India was represented by the Maharaja of Bikaner, a well-known favourite of the British Raj.
Lohia took exception to this and launched a protest from the visitors' gallery. He sent several letters to editors of newspapers and magazines to clarify the reason for his protest. The whole incident made Lohia a recognized figure in India overnight.
Lohia helped organize the Association of European Indians and became the secretary of the club. The main focus of the organization was to preserve and expand the Indian nationalism outside India. Lohia wrote his PhD thesis paper on the topic of Salt Satyagraha, focusing on Gandhiji's socio-economic theory.
Lohia was attracted to socialism and helped lay the foundation of Congress Socialist Party in 1934. Lohia was arrested and sentenced to 2 years in prison when he wrote the article Satyagraha Now in Gandhiji's newspaper Harijan on June 1, 1940. He was mentally tortured and interrogated by his jailers, but in December 1941 he was released along with other leaders by British authorities in a desperate attempt to destabilize India internally.
During the Quit India movement in 1942, when prominent leaders were jailed, Lohia carried out operations from underground. Lohia, along with freedom fighter Usha Mehta, broadcast messages in Bombay for 3 whole months from a secret radio station called Congress Radio before detection. He revived the movement in Kolkata and later fled to Nepal to evade the British. However, he was captured in May 1944. Lohia was taken to a prison in Lahore, but under Gandhiji's pressure, he was released.
As India's tryst with freedom neared, Hindu-Muslim strife increased. Lohia strongly opposed partitioning India in his speeches and writings. He appealed to communities in riot-torn regions to stay united, ignore the violence surrounding them, and stick to Gandhiji's ideals of non-violence.
Lohia comforted the Mahatma on partition issue and remained beside Gandhiji as a son would remain beside a father in the hour of crisis in the aftermath of independence.
Dr. Lohia was the first to introduce the idea of unification of some 650 Indian princely states together to form larger states, an idea which was later successfully executed by Sardar Patel, first Home Minister of India. After independence, Lohia made his indelible mark in democratic India as a great thinker and parliamentarian and a fighter for the cause of minorities, lower classes and women.
During his last few years, besides politics, he spent hours talking to thousands of young adults on topics ranging from Indian literature, politics and art. Lohia died on October the 12th, 1967 in New Delhi. He left behind no property or bank balance but prudent contemplations.
That brings us to the end of this episode of Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. See you in the next episode tomorrow.
As part of the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, AIR News is airing Nishan, a 75-episode program on landmark sites associated with the freedom movement. It is being broadcast every Wednesday in our Parikrama program at 4:45 p.m. Tune into AIR News to listen to our program Nishan tomorrow.
स्वाधीनता संग्राम के वे निशान जो साक्षी हैं हमारे सेनानियों के संघर्ष और बलिदान के। आकाशवाणी समाचार ला रहा है विशेष श्रृंखला निशान। हर बुधवार को शाम 4:45 पर कार्यक्रम परिक्रमा में FM गोल्ड 100.1 मेगाहर्ट्ज पर।
The Victory Flame or Swarnim Vijay Varsh, commemorating the 50th anniversary celebrations of India's win in the 1971 Indo-Pak War, reached Chhattisgarh today. We have a report.
This year is being celebrated as the Swarnim Vijay Varsh to commemorate 50 years of the glorious and historic victory of the Indian Army over Pakistan in the 1971 war. 4 victory flames were lit by Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the National War Memorial on 16th December last year, and these Vijay Mashals are being carried to the 4 directions of the country. One of these Vijay Mashal reached Chhattisgarh today. Governor Ansuya Uike will felicitate the Vijay Mashal at Raj Bhavan tomorrow, and on this occasion, she will honor the war heroes of the 1971 war. This Vijay Mashal will also be taken to the homes of the 1971 war heroes in Chhattisgarh. Vikalp Shukla, AIR News, Raipur.
In IPL cricket, Kolkata Knight Riders will now face Delhi Capitals in the second qualifier at Sharjah tomorrow. The match will begin at 7:30 p.m. In the eliminator match at Sharjah last night, Kolkata beat Royal Challengers Bangalore by 4 wickets to reach the second qualifier. The winner of tomorrow's match will meet Chennai Super Kings in the title clash at Dubai on Friday. Chennai has already qualified for their 9th IPL final after defeating Delhi Capitals, the toppers in the league stage, in the first qualifier on Sunday. Now let us take a look at the weather forecast for tomorrow. National capital Delhi will have a mainly clear sky. The temperature will vary between 22 and 36 degrees Celsius. Kolkata, Mumbai and Chennai will have partly cloudy sky with possibility of light rain or drizzle. Jammu and Srinagar will have a clear sky. Leh is also expected to have a clear sky. In Gilgit, the temperature will hover between 11 and 24 degrees Celsius. In Muzaffarabad, the minimum temperature will be 15 degrees. Maximum will be around 30. Most of the northeastern cities, including Guwahati, Imphal, Shillong, Aizawl, Kohima and Itanagar, will have generally partly cloudy sky with possibility of development of thunder and lightning. Gangtok will have partly cloudy sky. Hyderabad will have partly cloudy sky too, with possibility of development of thunder and lightning. Visakhapatnam will observe a minimum temperature of 27 degrees, maximum of around 35. Bengaluru will have generally cloudy sky with heavy rain. Puducherry is expected to have generally cloudy sky with light rain, and in Thiruvananthapuram, the minimum temperature will be 24 degrees, while the maximum will be around 30 degrees Celsius. And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi participates in G20 Extraordinary Summit on Afghanistan, stresses on preventing Afghan territory from becoming source of radicalization and terrorism. Prime Minister calls for urgent and unhindered humanitarian assistance to Afghan citizens and an inclusive administration. Selective interpretation of human rights damaging for democracy, says Prime Minister at NHRC Foundation Day program. Power Ministry asks states to utilize unallocated power from central plants only to meet requirement of their own consumers. Country inching towards 100 crore COVID vaccination target. National recovery rate stands at 98.04%. Civil Aviation Ministry allows domestic flights to operate at full capacity from 18th October. Prime Minister to launch PM Gati Shakti National Master Plan for Multimodal Connectivity tomorrow. Sensex jumps 149 points to close above 60,200 level. Nifty soars to 17,992. And in IPL cricket, Kolkata Knight Riders to face Delhi Capitals in second qualifier at Sharjah tomorrow. And with that, we end the evening news. Good night.